Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. My name is Jerry Fry, and I'm a member here at UUCUC. We are a church of many different theologies and identities, united by our shared commitment to building community, seeking inspiration, promoting justice, and finding peace. Please look around at the color-coded lanyards of your neighbors and be aware and respectful of others' needs and boundaries. Continued masking is welcome, but no longer required on Sunday mornings here. We're a congregation that embraces kids of all ages. You or your child are welcome to get a coloring kit from the box in the entryway, just near where the lanyards are. And after the time for all ages, kids will be invited to head downstairs with their teachers for religious exploration. Whoever you are and however you are joining us, know that you are welcome here, and this service is here for you. May you find in it something that you need. If you want to follow along with a written order of service, you can find that link just below this video on our website. And if you want to chat with your fellow UUCUC members, you can find the live stream chat box on our YouTube page. Remember that there is still time to send a joy or sorrow to be read aloud later in the service. You can email your message to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org, or if you're here in the sanctuary, there are note cards in the pews for handwritten joys and sorrows. The ushers will collect later in the service. And now, I'll invite you to take a moment to turn in your seats, or stand if you like, and greet your neighbors. You might introduce yourself, wish each other good morning, shake hands, or simply put your hand on your own heart and nod to say hello. We'll take a moment or two. Our land acknowledgement, which we integrate into every service, takes on special resonance as a practice that connects us to the history of this place and our own responsibilities as stewards and members of a wider community, as stewards of the land. Here on Green Street, we worship on the lands of the traditional territories of the Kaskaskia, Miamiwa, Bodwe-Wadmi, Kickapoo, Peoria, and Oched-Shakawan, the original nations of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. Wherever you are this morning, I invite you now to take a breath and consider the history and peoples of the land you are resting on. May we always remember where we are, the sacredness of this place, and the many people human and otherwise, who belong to it.
Whenever we gather, we light a flaming chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, to mark out this time as special and sacred. If you have a chalice or candle at home, I invite you to get ready to light it now. I'm going to lead you in the chalice lighting, and we're going to do something different. We're going to sing it instead of speaking it. The word is in your order of service. And Juan has an accompaniment, so he's going to play it through once. It goes nice and slowly, and then I will lead in singing. Follow along as best you can, and it's going to be great. And the word freedom is repeated eight times, so each time we say it, let's try to make that an event. Freedom, 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 freedom. Y'all are great. Thank you.
It's been pointed out to me that the opening hymn is truly number 298, as opposed to what is printed into your order of service. It is Wake Now My Senses, hymn number 298. MR will lead.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving,
Reverend Sally Fritchie. I am happy to serve as the Associate Minister here. I am here to introduce the time in our service which we usually use to tell a story or do an activity that is engaging to UUs of all ages and stages. So if there's any young or young at heart folks who want to get a little closer to the front, there's going to be some exciting storytelling happening up here in a minute. So, some of you may know, some of you may not know, this is our Reverend KB, Karen Bush's last Sunday with us. And so, this story is a story about herding butterflies, because it has been said sometimes that being minister to a church is a bit like herding butterflies that are flitting and flapping all over the place, trying to get them all going in the same direction. This story was written by our own board president, Becky Densmore, in honor of our Reverend KB, and it will be collaboratively told. We need lots of storytellers for this story.
All right, gather around. Good morning. Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
You want a butterfly? No? All right. Someone want to come up here? You guys good? Very good. You would too? Go ahead. You can sit up here. Well, good morning. This is the story of the grand adventure of Kaleidoscope Blossom, a butterfly herder in the land of UU. In the kingdom of somewhere over the rainbow lived a retired butterfly herder. Her name was Kaleidoscope Blossom. Butterfly herders, you see, are revered and rare. You alone can't just decide to be a butterfly herder. Yeah! You have to also hear a special butterfly song. It's a magical mix, to be certain, even though no one knows quite how it works. One sunny summer day, KB, as our retired butterfly herder was known, was tending her beautiful garden when she heard a buzzing in her ear. It was a beogram. Can you make a buzz? It's a beogram. There's a beogram. It's an urgent message from the land of UU. At all points, bulletin has been dispatched to look for a special butterfly herder. And you know, not just any would do. You see, the butterflies in the land of UU are very, very special butterflies. They honor a search for truth and meaning, all knowing there are so many paths to take. No two butterflies will follow the same path. This makes it very, very challenging to herd. Now, there's one other thing about the land of UU. If you sneak into the morning mist, being quiet as a whisper, you can see unicorns. Oh my, these are mystical creatures who not only hear the call of leadership, but answer it as well. You see, their job is to be in the know for the land of UU.
Oh my! I just love the butterfly herd beyond the mist in the land of UU. I've always admired them and would love the chance to help them. I know. I'll answer the call as the beogram requested.
So KB responded and met a unicorn named Patsy. They agreed to meet as Patsy was visiting nearby. It was an immediate hit. They celebrated the universe that connected them. Together, they set off on a grand adventure to the land of UU. Now, their journey was fraught with uncertainty. Butterflies from across the kingdom were anxious. See, they were emerging from an epic struggle at the field of COVID. Many were battle-worn and weary. Some were sad and didn't even know it, while others were mad and everyone knew it. And in the land of UU, the butterfly herd was wild too. Some were flitting to and fro with no direction. Some were shooting for the moon, maybe landing on a star, now fingers crossed. And then some were even nowhere to be found. So arriving in the land of UU, KB took a deep breath to steady herself and then got to work. First, using her golden net, she created a butterfly sanctuary to cover the land. It was a safe and secure place where all butterflies could live and thrive. KB invited all the land of UU butterflies to gather in this special place. Now, at first, gathering the butterflies was pretty hard work. That's right. Many in the herd were agile and quick. Some couldn't see a sense of gathering. Others couldn't wait and rushed to be encased in the golden net. And then there were some burrowed deep in their cocoons and had to be encouraged. Oh my, it was really, really hard. But she never gave up. No. She got help from a new friend named Rev, a special butterfly herder too. Rev offers magical glitter sprinkles for butterfly wings. This helps them become who they are meant to be. You know, together they got so good at butterfly tending, they could catch them in one hand, and in some cases, even with one hand tied behind their backs. And before you knew it, there was a whole sanctuary filled with butterflies of all hues. It was a glorious sight indeed. So many days and nights passed as the seasons came and went. Kaleidoscope Blossom showed up day after day to serve in the land of UU. And for those many days, she nurtured the butterfly sanctuary that her golden net brought about. Meanwhile, in the land of the butterflies in the land of UU, they blossomed under her tender care. They sure did. And so goes the story of the wonderful time Kaleidoscope Blossom served in the land of UU. She went back to her quiet garden in the kingdom of somewhere over the rainbow, retiring her golden net once again. As for the land of UU, Kaleidoscope Blossom will forever be remembered with great love and appreciation. A proclamation was issued and shared throughout the kingdom. It proclaimed her to have a special magic that, when applied, butterflies bloom. And all the butterflies can hear their rejoicing celebration. All's well and ends well in the land of UU. The end.
Thank you. With that, the kids are invited to head downstairs with their teachers for religious exploration. You can take as much confetti as you want.
We as Unitarian Universalists Acknowledge that our circle of care doesn't stop at our church doors. We're deeply connected to the community we find ourselves in and to the wider world. Please continue to keep an eye on your e-news weekly newsletter for opportunities to show up, find support, get involved, and be part of this community. Each Sunday, in recognition of our very real interdependence and reliance on each other, we pass the plate and share our offering with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. For our May Sundays, we are sharing our plate with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, created in 1986 in response to President Reagan signing into law the Immigration Reform and Control Act, ICIRR, has been at the forefront of helping immigrants realize and contribute to the dream that is America. You can give by text or through the online portal on our website. Or, if you're here in the sanctuary, the basket will be passed and checks can be made out to UUCUC. Half of what you give will go towards sustaining the work of this church. The other half will go directly to ICIRR. We invite you to give whatever is generous for you, and know that anything you contribute will be gratefully received. Put to use, helping make a real impact for people who need it. The basket will now be passed. Each Sunday here at UUCUC, we make space to share the joys and sorrows closest to our hearts. While Juan plays our blessing song, Longtime Son, you may write down the joys and sorrows that you wish to share, either on a card or in an email message to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. Then I'll read the messages so that we can celebrate each other's joys and support each other's griefs. During the song, you may also come forward and take a moment at our altar table or at the table nearer the center of the sanctuary. We have glass beads and flower petals which you are invited to place into a shared vessel of water. The stones will sink to the bottom and ground us. The petals will float, balancing delicately between water and air. You may hand your card to an usher or bring it to the basket on the altar. We have several joys and sorrows, both by email and in print. And here comes some more. A sorrow. This week from Katie Madigan. This week our family lost our oldest dog, Max, very unexpectedly. Max was rescued from an abusive home and lived with us for 11 years. He was a kind and loving soul, and as my mom said, everyone's favorite. We miss his little wiggly butt, soft, warm fur, and snuggles. From Kelly Skinner, a joy. My first grandbaby, Leo James Skinner, was born Thursday, May 18 at 7:40 p.m. in Crown Point, Indiana. Mom and Dad are doing well, and he may be the most perfect baby ever. Probably never been said before. From Cindy Louie, a sorrow for former member and DRE at UUCUC, Renee Cogill, whose husband Tom died April 21, 11 days shy of his 81st birthday. after a long battle with congestive heart failure. From Karen Bush, who's in the house. Joy, such gratitude for my wonderful husband. Scott Bush, who is with me here this morning and has encouraged and supported me through 34 years of marriage, including this extraordinary journey with UUCUC these last 20 months. Thank you, Scott. From Sam Bashirs and Lynn Wiley, concern for Sam's stepmother, Barbara Bashirs, who is home after being hospitalized with heart issues, but who has not yet learned not to lift heavy objects. I know Barbara, and she's stubborn. Joy, that on May 24th, we will celebrate our 37th wedding anniversary, only 4 days to go. From Jim Hannum, a joy, our eldest grandson Evan is 15 today. Happy birthday, and hope you figure out how to get out of the escape room before the world is destroyed. From Caitlin Postley, sorrow. From Charles and Caitlin, sorrow. We were sad to learn from friend that our very loved guinea pig Cheeks passed away from an ear infection this week. He was such a sweet little guy and will be missed. So hard to lose a pet. Jerry Carden, history moment. May we reflect on the fact that the Universalists in Urbana, formally chartered as a congregation 164 years ago as of this last Wednesday. Happy birthday to us. From Jerry and Tim Temple. From Genesis Sinek, sorrow. My friend is moving away in a few weeks, and I'll only be able to come to this church a couple more times because I'm moving the end of next month. From Michaela Cruz, a joy. A joy for my husband's promotion this week. Adam Cruz will be directing the new Hip Hop Center at the U of I. We are so proud of his hard work. From Chris Hanauer, a sorrow for the passing of my father's cousin, Hannah Fournier. Sorry if the pronunciation's off. Yesterday. Many fond memories of time spent with her. From Mick McEnroe, a sorrow. If things had gone as planned, tomorrow would be the 19th anniversary of our wedding. Sadly, our time together was shorter than that. From Paul Kaiser, a joy that my pollinator plants finally arrived and I can make the right of way in front of my house a beautiful place, assuming I get it all dug in. That's the last email for now. From Sandy and Jim Hannum, please keep Mike and Karen Retzer in your hearts. Mike's father passed away yesterday. From Hannah S., going home to visit my sister. Safe travels. From Theo, I love Theo's joys and sorrows. School is almost out, and the pool is going to open soon. From Nicole, For Richie, if it is now your time to pass, may you find peace and comfort on your journey. From Bunny, a joy. Today, our local animal rescue, Hospice Hearts, is having a Pups and Pints event at Poor Brothers in Champaign starting at 2 p.m. Please come out and meet some of our foster animals and learn more about the rescue. Hope to see you there. This was also an email. And so was that. Okay. Please keep these joys and sorrows in your heart.
Good morning. My name is Sam Bashir. Aaron Copland wrote Fanfare for the Common Man in 1942. He was commissioned to write a fanfare by Eugene Goosens, conductor of the Cincinnati Symphony, who wanted a series of fanfares for his orchestra concerts that year as a patriotic gesture. 17 fanfares were written and performed as part of that series, and of those 17, Copland's is the only one that is remembered and still frequently performed. In fact, Juan has performed it before for one of our services. Before I really get going, I have to thank some people. I could not have started this without Janet Revell Barrett, who consulted and gave me some key resources. And I couldn't do it at all without Juan, who is representing a 20-piece brass ensemble. And he said, if you need 25, I can do that too. And we always need to thank the AV folks who labor obscene up in the Rude Loft. This week I want to particularly thank Selena for getting the live stream set up, and then Chris Hanna for making needed changes and actually running the show. And also Jody Hanger for her work on the slides. Thank you all. The original request by Goosens was for a fanfare that would be patriotic, traditional, and militaristic. All of the others in the series were just that. They were brief, dramatic, and rousing, generally lasting a minute or less. Copland's is by far the longest and derives its power from its repeated and varied musical motifs rather than from a frenetic pace. In fact, it is slower, dignified and stately, and allows time for reflection. The title is, of course, paradoxical. A fanfare traditionally announces the arrival of nobility or royalty. Having a fanfare for the common man flips that tradition on its head. Copland did not arrive at that title by accident. His initial thoughts were, like others, patriotic, and he considered titles like Fanfare for the Day of Victory or Fanfare for Our Heroes. As he was working through some possibilities, he heard a speech given by Henry Wallace, Vice President of the United States at the time, called Century of the Common Man. Copland was inspired by this speech, and he had his theme and title. As Sean Willens writes, Copland finally struck on an oxymoron that combined the human and the abstract, and that expressed the ideals of war but lifted it from its immediate context. Copland heralded the groundlings, grunts, and ordinary men personified as a different kind of noble. He honored not only their service and sacrifice in the war, but their very existence. And he heralded their arrival in history. Wallace's address was in part idealistic and political, and in part a call to arms. It was the common man who would fight the war and repel the threat of fascism. But he would do this to serve the cause of freedom, to help build a society in which the dignity of every person would be recognized and every person would be free, having enough to eat, a place to live, and the time and resources for self-improvement and for sharing in communal activities. In this way, Wallace's freedom is essentially identical to our values and goals for society. Copland was already sympathetic to this view. For many years, he was a known communist sympathizer and strongly pro-Soviet in his political leanings. This appears to have been rooted in his support for the working classes rather than the government, and during the Cold War, he abandoned those pro-Soviet views. But he was ready to embrace the worth and dignity of the common man. Those who know better than I do describe the music as both sophisticated and accessible and distinctly modernistic. Here I'm relying on an essay by Jennifer DeLapp Burkett. Copland builds the piece from three musical motifs, or as DeLapp Burkett calls them, gestures. The pounding comes from timpani, bass drum, and tam-tam. The flourish is rising 2 short notes and a long note, and the majestic stride is 4 rhythmically even descending notes. She writes, the way Copland combines these 3 gestures is what gives Fanfare for the Common Man a truly unique identity. The opening of Fanfare presents the kernel of the entire piece. For the remaining 3 minutes, he repeats, varies, modifies, recombines, and interweaves the 3 short gestures to create a coherent 3-minute piece of music that flows forward in time, both logically and dramatically, from a striking beginning to a triumphal end. I'm asking Juan to illustrate by playing 3 versions of the flourish and majestic stride as they appear in succession during the piece. The piano doesn't imitate the bass drum very well, although he did it well in the prelude, but we're skipping the pounding. So first, the opening measures, which is normally done by trumpets. The next iteration adds horns and harmony. And the third time through, we get trombones and some variations on the basic gesture. There's a recording on YouTube of a performance of this piece for the closing of the 9/11 Tribute Museum. For me, at least, the music equally well evokes feelings of patriotism, the tragedy of those lost, and the heroism of the survivors. I think Copland's triumphal end, as DeLapp Burkett puts it, is an affirmation. You, the common person, do not need inherited wealth to have dignity and worth. You are good enough as you are. And now we need to pivot just slightly. I want to give due honor to Copland's title. He used the common man in keeping with his times and following the inspiration from Henry Wallace. But I think he would have no problem today calling it Fanfare for the Common Person, and that is what it will be for the rest of this service. Copland was both Jewish and gay and knew very well what it meant to have a part of his identity kept private. So who is this common person? There's a long history, of course, of social stratifications. Our idea of a common person or commoner comes mainly from feudal times when the people who counted were the nobility. They were the ones who bore arms and also had the time and resources to acquire skills, be creative, and to innovate. The role of the commoner was to subsist and to serve the upper classes. Movement between social classes was infrequent, and commoners had few opportunities to distinguish themselves. The ideal of the common person was present in the U.S. from the start as Europeans came to a new land where they could have religious and political freedom, and the status of the common person took a leap in the 1820s when men who did not own property were granted voting rights. Parentheses. There are some ferocious contradictions in even this brief history in which the growth of freedom and political power excluded basically everyone except white men, but please bear with me. By 1942, the common people were alive and well and living in the U.S. We had our own nobility in the people who made fortunes in business and finance, but America was still largely an agrarian and manufacturing society. Most people did not yet go to college, and as the Depression ended, the middle class grew, and it was possible to raise a family on one person's earnings. Along with voting rights, Henry Wallace credited public education for the growth of the common person as both an economic contributor and informed and responsible citizen. By World War II, these factors, along with population growth, had turned the common person into a significant political force. The values expressed by Wallace and by Copland in the Fanfare are ones that should resonate with us here in our church. Here, we're free to believe as we wish, to explore different ways of thinking and believing, and to develop our interests and talents as we're able. That freedom to explore and to develop is an important part of why we come here. Here, we're all common persons. No members of our congregation are, or should be, privileged over any others. No one's voice should be heard more than anybody else, except perhaps MR's, who's more equal than others. We celebrate the worth of every person and the diversity of persons. And it is only through the efforts of many common persons that this place remains open and available to all. At least in parts of our society today, the common person has greater rights and greater freedom than ever before. We recognize the rights and legal standing of people without respect to race, class, culture, sex, gender, sexual preference, or any of the other traits that have been used to divide society and exclude some groups. That's precious, and we need to hold on to it. There is still an element of nobility envy in us, however. There are many who see the president as a royal figure, or quasi-royal figure, and there's an enormous amount of marketing aimed at our latent desire to be part of the nobility, or making us feel that we should have that desire, to be pampered and privileged, to have anything we want at any time. In this hotel, you will be treated like royalty. In fox-run estates, you can imagine yourself living as gentry in the English countryside, even if you're retired on a fixed income. You can enjoy this decadent dessert. You deserve to board with the A group for an extra $30. The common person is not a homogeneous group. Each common person is unique with their own worth and dignity, their own story, their own potential. Each of us is a precious snowflake like the one in the rose window today, unique and never to be repeated. The common person, free to live and grow and explore as they want to, shows an astonishing range of talent, intellect, creativity, and achievements that we really should take notice of. The range of music, art, athletics, science, writings of all kinds is far too much for us to take in. But it makes us all richer, even if we do not encounter most of it directly. I wanted to give just a few examples of individuals who have done remarkable things. Of course, there are far too many people doing too many remarkable things to even scratch the surface here, and I'm sure you can think of your own examples. I just picked 3. Things I would have never done. Alex Honnold is a rock climber known for his free solo ascents of big walls. That means climbing up a cliff with no protection in the event of a fall. On June 3rd, 2017, he made the first solo ascent of El Capitan in Yosemite, completing the 2,900-foot freerider route in 3 hours and 56 minutes. Taimane Gardner is a ukulele virtuoso and composer. It was only about a year ago I learned there is such a thing as a ukulele virtuoso. What would you do on a uke that could actually be challenging, and why would you want to? It only has 4 strings. Those questions are quickly answered if you watch one of her videos, such as her playing Led Zeppelin meets Beethoven at the Kennedy Center. Sometimes less is more. Yesterday morning, I happened on a TED Talk by Nadia Tolokonikova, exiled Russian activist and former member of the feminist punk band Pussy Riot. She's speaking of her experience being sentenced and serving 2 years in prison for demonstrating against Putin. She saw herself as freer than the prosecutors who sentenced her because she could say whatever she wanted, while those prosecutors could not, because of the fear that they might end up imprisoned like her. She describes her sentencing, standing alone, handcuffed in a small cell surrounded by 10 guards and an attack dog, and thinking, can one person change the world? Is it even worth trying, or am I setting myself up for failure? In March of 2023, Russia's Interior Ministry placed her on its wanted list and opened an investigation on her for insulting the religious feelings of believers.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Sam, for the message. And on the theme of the common person, some action steps you can take are put on your calendar that our annual meeting as a congregation will be in 2 weeks' time on June 4th, when all our members will be asked to vote in approval of our budget, our new board members, make the decisions that we ask of the common person in this congregation, the democratic process. So as I said earlier during the Time for All Ages, today is Reverend Karen Bush, KB's last day serving as our interim lead minister. KB, it has been my honor, my joy to serve alongside you these past 2 years. And though it's heartbreaking to say goodbye, I hope you know you're leaving us better than you found us. When you agreed to step out of your well-earned retirement and help with herding all our butterflies, you couldn't possibly have known what you were signing up for. You literally could not have known. It was a leap of faith, and we are so lucky and so grateful that you made that leap. When you showed up, you said that your top priorities were to support the board leadership and to support me through the chaos of losing Florence, returning from COVID shutdowns, caring for this community, and somewhere in there trying to pursue the larger mission and values of the congregation. You've been there for us, you've been there for me through an unbelievable 2 years, and I hope that you are so proud of what you've accomplished. Most folks don't know the number of times that I called KB in a panic, freaking out, totally overwhelmed, and she talked me into calm and clarity. The number of times I ran email drafts past her to double check that my wording was sensitive enough, or asked her for advice in navigating some impossible decision. Without you, these past few years would have burned me out, depleted me, shortened my career in ministry, and it's because of you that I can stand here having learned and grown and flourished as a minister alongside you. It's not just me. This congregation has had a hard few years, going from explosive growth before COVID to COVID shutdowns, and having to see Reverend Florence step down prematurely. The volunteer leaders, the church staff, the community as a whole have relied on you every step of the way. We are so grateful. I'm going to ask you to come up here now. And I'm going to need Becky and Sam momentarily, and I think Jenny Hunt. We have a couple of gifts for you. And then we'll have a formal release of covenant with each other as we extinguish our chalice and go out into the world. So first we have a quilt representing the growth and blossoming you helped make possible here, and all the beautiful butterflies you helped herd and organize into community. Oh my gosh.
So, KB, what more can we add to your special story, Kaleidoscope Blossom's grand adventure, and your time in the land of UU as our butterfly herder? And that's not been said. So let's begin with this. How about we are forever grateful to you and for you, as you've held us in your loving pastoral care these 2 years. You lighten the load of many, including my home. Thank you for casting your golden net, inviting us all back into our beloved sanctuary, and keeping us safe while doing it. And thank you for allowing us to pause your retirement for just a time. We too celebrate your season of rest after serving others for many, many years. We wish you all things wonderful as you resume open calendars and Zoomless days. Oh, and one other thing. Thank you for your leading with the heart. You invited us to do that, and I am forever grateful for that. And as you look around us, look at what you accomplished. We went from a closed, empty sanctuary when you started to one filled with new and familiar faces, and we have bloomed under your care, and we are grateful. And this is the way we want to share. This is called Blooming Butterflies. On the back side of that quilt is an embroidery. It reads, to Rev KB, Love UUCUC 2023.
Next, we have for you a framed photo of our rose window to always remember that you have a place of sanctuary here with us.
Oh, that's beautiful.
There's not much more I can say. Of course, we can always say more, and you know me. But hopefully, the rose window with the heart inside lets you know, anytime you look at it, the love that you brought to us and the love that we have for you. Thank you. Enjoy your retirement now.
We have a chalice for you so that you can continue your learning about your new UU affiliation and carry the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment with you when you go. And the final gift is a song performed by MR and Bethany for us.
Now I'm really gonna cry.
And then after that, you'll be up here to see you. So you don't need to stand up here for the song
I'm gonna cry.
because we're gonna cry. All right, go ahead.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for.
But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun,
by a wind off the sea,
like a stream that meets
like
a boulder
a seed dropped by a
halfway
bird in
through
the
the wood.
because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
For my memories. Everyone wave. Wave to our future. Yeah. Oh. That one was up my nose. Thank you, everybody. Oh, it's me, yes.
What would I do without Sally showing me where to go? Thank you. For 2 years, you have offered me your free pulpit and the freedom of creativity and worship, gifts for which I am grateful. And I hereby return the ministry of worship to your able hands. Use it to speak the truth in love to one another, to continue to find reverence and meaning together.
KB, on behalf of the congregation, we thank you for your service in our pulpit. We accept its power of freedom for ourselves and release you from your service as worship leader.
For 2 years, you have welcomed me into the transitional moments of your lives, times of sorrow and crisis, and also of great joy. It's been my privilege to care for you in times of need.
On behalf of the congregation, we thank you for the pastoral care you've offered us. We accept its power of compassion for ourselves and release you from your role as pastoral caregiver.
And since my arrival, you have asked me to serve as administrator and professional leader of this congregation. And today, I return the ministry of this congregation to you. May you guide yourselves with courage and wisdom into a strong and sure future.
On behalf of the congregation, we thank you for your professional leadership. We accept its power of vision and knowledge and release you from your time as our professional leader.
Now we will extinguish our chalice, which I think might have self-extinguished. We'll symbolically extinguish our chalice with call and response words that will be up on the screen when the time comes. After the chalice is extinguished, we'll join in singing a final hymn of release, Go Now in Peace, as KB will lead us in processing over to Fellowship Hall, where there is cake and a chance to continue celebrating together.
Beth got me out back looking at her again there, her sparkle. The light of our shared ministry will be extinguished today, but our respective ministries will continue separately, and our separate fires will bring light to the world in new and unique ways. I'm going to light, Sally's going to light for us, thank you, Sally, 2 candles from the chalice. One to symbolize your ministry as a congregation, and the other to represent the ministry that I take with me. And with love and gratitude, I release you from our covenant with one another. But the love continues. So go your way in peace and truth and love. And now in terms of, we'll do I may have jumped ahead, but you guys are used to following and going with the flow because we're used together. So for the chalice extinguishing,
We'll say together our words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And then there's 4 more words of release we haven't done yet. I skipped ahead. It's just us together. So there we go. Let's do this again. That one was practice. With love and gratitude, I release you from our covenant with one another. Go your way in peace and truth and love.
With love and gratitude, we release you from our covenant with one another. Go your way in peace, truth, and love.
With that, please join in singing our closing, or our song postlude rather. Go now in peace. We'll sing it through a few times until we're all out of the sanctuary. We can get up and sing at the same time.